Hey guys, Mike Tangreda, and glad you can join us. And this is my first official podcast on my own. Now I've done a couple before with my good friend Chris Wong from chriswongfitness.com, and you can check out his book Centerline, which I highly recommend. But here's my first solo go at running a podcast, and so glad you can make it and listen here, because this first podcast that I'm doing here, I thought I'd title it The Making of an Entrepreneur, and that's going to be the title moving forward on this show, at least for now. And the reason I thought that The Making of an Entrepreneur was a cool name is it's sort of going to take you through the journey of other entrepreneurs and how they've turned their passions into amazing successful businesses. And that's sort of the goal of this podcast. We'll get Chris and we'll get many other entrepreneurs on here, and just showcase how they sort of got into entrepreneurship. And it's really how I got into entrepreneurship ship as well. So this podcast I want to share with you on the top tips that I've learned along the way to help shortcut your destination to wherever you may want to go in life. And with your business. So I necessarily don't think that we are born entrepreneurs. I really believe that, at least that's the case for me. But what I do believe is we all have these passions and these interests, and some of us actually turn them into businesses that are lucrative and helping others. And like that, like I said, at least that's a story for me, and I think that's sort of what The Making of an Entrepreneurship show is going to focus on, is people's passions and how they've turned them into awesome businesses. And like I said, hopefully we can help you cut your time to success, really, because that's the end of the game, right? How fast can we get there, and how fast can we keep moving forward? So I promise, and throughout these episodes, I want to share with you the quickest way to get to your goals, and tips and tricks on how to cut that time really in half. So some of you may know, and some, of course, do not know, but the way I got into entrepreneurship, and again, like I said, I never envisioned myself as an entrepreneur at a young age, but I did have several passions. And those passions are what kind of catapulted me into where I am right now. And if you don't know, I'm the owner and CEO of InHomeTrainer.ca, which is a national business. Right now it's across Canada, but we are going into the United States as well. So we have trainers that come to your home all over the country, and pretty soon all across North America. But like I said, I never really had this major dream as a kid growing up to be this entrepreneur, but I had several passions. And one of the passions I found early in life was around 18 years old, when I struggled with weight, and I struggled with health, really, and ended up transforming my body, my health, and transform myself to something that I was really proud of. Got in really good shape, got really fit, and said, hey, this is a real strong passion of mine. Why don't I turn this into a business? And at first it wasn't a business. At first I was just a personal trainer. And what I eventually did was I ended up getting a job like most people. Obviously I got schooling and certified and got my first job and started working as a personal trainer. And but I ended up getting a couple of jobs, because one job wasn't enough in the personal training industry. So I needed a couple of jobs to support myself. And at the time, I ended up a little later buying my first house as well, an old fixer-upper. And I remember specifically like spending all this time working as a personal trainer. So I'm working morning and then I'm working night, and I'm doing renos in between, and I'm just getting like exhausted and burnt out. And I'm not quite an entrepreneur at this time. At this time I'm basically a worker, and a worker bee, as you call it. So I'm sitting there and getting burnt out. And I remember at the time, my girlfriend, who is now my lovely wife and beautiful wife, But I remember at the time, made plans with her to go out one evening. And I had been working morning, I'd been doing training early in the morning. I'd been doing some late night clients. I'd been doing rentals at the house. And I was just, honestly, I was burnt and spent. And, I remember, we had made plans for whatever it was, 7, 8 o'clock. And, like an hour before, I had to bail on our date. And surprisingly, she's still with me, thank God. But, it's actually not funny. I had to bail on the date. And I remember just listening and, the awkward silence on the phone, letting her know that I had to bail. And it just, at that point, this is the girl I love. This is the girl eventually I married and have a family with now. But I remember listening to the disappointment in her voice. And, I hung up the phone and I felt like such a loser, such a dick, really, for canceling that appointment. And, what eventually had to happen was, I ended up going to bed that night and I'm like, I can't keep doing this. Like, I'm getting burnt out. I have this awesome passion for fitness and, helping others. And that is really when my entrepreneurial journey began. And I remember the next day, like, I was still living at home while I was doing the rentals at my, at my old fixer-upper. And I ended up, asking my mother, who had worked in the newspaper industry most of her life, if her friend could run an ad for me in a local newspaper. And she said, sure, you can certainly ask. And I don't think she'll do it for you for free. Which, I sort of expected, I guess, but she didn't, and I'm glad she didn't. But anyways, I ended up getting an ad for a bit of a discounted rate in a newspaper. And I remember the ad, I designed on like Microsoft Word. It was like the crappiest ad with like stick figures and, just something really awful. But it basically, had a hook and a story and, and sort of, try your own personal training, shed body fat, this is how I transform my body, something along the lines of that. And here's entrepreneurial tip number 1 is speed will always, always, always beat trying to have something perfect. So notice I ran my first ad in a newspaper on Microsoft Word. It was like the crappiest ad. But guess what happened? I'll remember this, and I'll never forget this until, right until this day, and until the day I die, is, when that ad came out, and I remember it always came out on the Wednesday. The weekly paper would come out on Wednesday and Sunday. So it came out on the Wednesday, and on the Thursday, I had 4 phone calls. And this was basically how I got into entrepreneurship. So I had received 4 phone calls from running my first advertisement. I knew nothing about advertising. I knew nothing about running a business. But I ended up convincing one of those 4 people to actually do a personal training session in home with me. And miraculously, I ended up going there, and she had cut me a check for $1,200. And I remember at the time thinking, oh my God, like, I'm driving home with this $1,200 check in my hand, and I had been working day and night, like at 2 jobs, and, getting paid bi-weekly, and I don't think my earnings were $1,200, and I'd earned that in 1 hour, and it was all mine, to take home. And it's really how I got thrown into entrepreneurship. So now I started turning my passions into something that I could grow into a business. And again, the ad would come out on Sunday, the second time the ad ran, and again, another few people called. And again, I ended up, miraculously, convincing someone to do a personal training session in their home. And the same thing happened. So suddenly, in less than a week, in like 5 days, I had made, I believe it was over $2,200. And all mine. And again, like, I had not seen that money as, as a worker bee, burning my butt off, back and forth. And that is when basically how I got into entrepreneurship. And, so it's amazing. So I'm running these ads, fast forward, months later, and the ads are clearly working. And, I'm bringing on a team of workers now, and we're going out and we're servicing people. And, I'm starting to learn a little bit about business, learn about, how to treat customers and all that sort of stuff. And, now I've got a few workers working for me because, I'm getting actually really busy, and it's really how I get into entrepreneurship. But what I do remember is, I want to say it's about 2 years later, maybe even less. It could have been less. And what happens, it's like, to me, this is the day the newspaper business died, and magazines and all that sort of stuff, or print, I guess we'd call it. And I remember that, the phone just stopped ringing, and I was like, I don't get it. I kept running ads and spending more money, and the phone just was like not ringing. I'd be lucky if I get a call now every time an ad ran. And, lesson number 2 in entrepreneurship is, I could have done a couple of things. I could have basically quit and, folded like a cheap suit and gone back and worked as, at a gym job because, money's not coming in. Now I've got these mouths I got to feed because I've got workers that are working for me, and they're like, hey, I'm a little slow. Can you get me some more work? And it's crickets. There's nobody calling anymore. So, I remember at the time, I'm like, okay, like, what am I going to do here? So I've got to figure out a way. And that's, the entrepreneurship journey is, you are going to have times that are going to test you and battle you, but these are the times that you're going to either fold or you're going to prove that you can make this work. And you have to have this belief in yourself. And I don't know where I've always had this belief in myself, but to this day, like, no matter what, I know I'm going to succeed. And maybe a lot of it's because I've spent a lot of time on mindset and reading books, and always, continuing to keep my razor-like sharp focus. But every time, and you're going to have setbacks if you're starting a new business or you're an entrepreneur already, and you know about this, you are going to have setbacks from time to time. It's what's going to separate you. Are you going to have that mindset that's going to say, hey, like, I'm going to push through this and find a better way, or am I just going to fold and let this eat me alive? So basically, I'm have to figure out a way. And then I remember going online and, like, looking at the internet. The internet was sort of booming at that time, and I ended up buying something for hockey. I'm a big hockey, fan and enthusiast. And, I ended up buying something online, and it dawned on me, I'm like, well, if I'm buying something online, wouldn't my clients be searching for me online? And so, lo and behold, I ended up building my first website. And again, guys, if you remember back to the ad, like, it was the crappiest ad, right? But it still got me traction. I built this website, and it was the crappiest website you'd ever see, you would ever have seen in your life. But yet I put it up, okay? And that was the important thing. So speed, I got that website up, and I'm like, okay, this is amazing. All these clients are going to come to me. We're gonna be back in business. Everybody's, gonna have a job, and everybody's gonna have a bunch of clients. And guess what happened? Again, crickets. And more crickets. Like, we're talking, like, not a single website lead. And this whole build it, they will come, that's just a bunch of bull crap, right? You've got to figure out a way. And again, there's another setback. So I had to figure out a way how to get people to my website, right? And, entrepreneurship tip number 3 here on this episode is, I had this vision of where I wanted to go. And it might have been a vague vision at the time, but it was still a vision of, I wanted like 15 workers, and I wanted to go into these, different locations. And this is sort of, where I pictured my business, how much income I was going to make a month. And what ends up happening is I have this vision, and I start going down this rabbit trail of, like, okay, how am I going to get people to come to my website? And I'm spending all my time, reading about SEO, which is driving traffic organically to website. I'm starting to look at advertising and, buying books on, how to do Facebook ads and Google ads and all that sort of stuff. And I'm going down this rabbit trail, and I'm spending days and days and days and probably even months at this point of, like, trying to convert and learn things. And I'm going down the rabbit trail, and I'm no longer, focusing on my vision. Like, I literally at that time forgot what my vision is. So this tip here is, if you have a vision, try not to go down the rabbit trail. Catch yourself every time you go down that rabbit trail, because guess what? What I learned, like how to develop a website and what I've learned in SEO, it's crap. Like I still to this day am not good at that stuff. I am not good at SEO. I am not good at building a website. So I spent all this time trying to get to my journey and trying to build this perfect website and trying to get traffic there, and nothing was happening. Nothing. Like zero, because that's not my expertise, and that's the point. Do not go chasing down a trail if it's not your expertise, because you're going to spend months and months and months going down that rabbit trail. So I ended up finding and searching for people that could help me do this, people that did this for a living. Just like I was a personal trainer, I was an awesome personal trainer, I did that for a living. Like I could, I could teach someone how to shed fat and build muscle and, get good core strength and improve their knees and back. Like that's my expertise. My expertise is not becoming a search engine optimization expert. I tried that. It doesn't work, right? If you are that, all the power to you, amazing. But don't go down that rabbit trail if you're not, because you're going to get frustrated. Cut your time literally in like half, in days. Find someone who does this for a living. And if you don't got the money to do that, then bootstrap it. Offer them free personal training. Offer them whatever it is, your service that you're doing. Right? At the time, I didn't have the cash to build a website or build this amazing, lead source generator. But I bartered my way. Right? I offered free training to people. I offered free gifts, whatever it was, for someone to help me to get me to where I want to go. And so that's tip number 3, and that's an important one. Don't go down the rabbit trail in entrepreneurship. You're going to waste a lot of time, and I wish I knew this a lot earlier on my journey, but it's something that has 10x my business rapidly right now. Like, if you want the biggest tip on how to 10x your business and get there very, very quickly, is don't go down the rabbit trail. So I know I got away a little bit from my story, but I thought that was really important to share. So I ended up building this website. No one comes, and then finally, eventually, people start coming to the website after we sort of figure things out. And one thing I did learn along the way is Google does love, Google's the major search engine, but there's other ones as well. But search engines love websites that have been around for a long time, that have authority, that that you're constantly pushing out traffic and blogs and all that sort of stuff and videos and all that too. Google really recognizes that. Now we're blessed today, the website's been around for 15 plus years, that we generate, more than 3,000-4,000 hits, every month to the website, where people are looking just to, get in shape and personal training and all that. And so that's basically, how I basically got the website back up and, and started being able to get personal trainers back on our team and start feeding mouths again, and, putting food on the table for myself and my family. So as I'm, going through this journey, and, we built the inhometrainer.ca website up. I remember specifically, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now, 3 years. I think our first licensed trainer that we brought on was about 4 years ago, and now they're sort of like licensed partners who own a piece of our, I don't want to say own a piece of our company, but are, working to be entrepreneurs and teaching them how to, run successful training businesses. And so, but I remember at the time, I still had all these workers and all these subcontractors and freelance workers, and they're all working for me, and one by one, slowly enough, they're coming to me and they're having the same problems that I had when I first started as a personal trainer. And those problems were basically the same that I had. They were getting burnt out. They were working a ton of hours. They probably weren't getting compensated nearly what, they should be. And it dawned on me, I've got to change again. So again, in entrepreneurship, tip number, I believe we're on tip number 4 here. I've lost track, but always adapt and change, right? So you're always growing. There's a quote that I love, or more of a saying, but it's think of a bicycle. When you're on a bicycle, if you're standing still, right? If you're just kind of stopped, you lose your equilibrium, right? You're most likely just gonna fall off to your side, right? You can't go backwards on a bike, and if you're going forward, you have that momentum. So in business, you always want to think about going forward. If you're stopped, you're basically going to fall down, and you're basically dead in business if you're stopped. So you always got to kind of adapt and keep growing and keep moving forward. So that is basically where we were 4 years ago. Like, we adapted, and all these trainers are coming, and one by one they're getting burnt out, they're falling off, and I came up with this idea, like, how can I make this a win-win for everybody, where, like, it's going to be a win for the clients, they're going to get the best service. It's going to be a win for me because I'm helping others with their passion. And it's going to be a win for our team and our trainers because they're going to be learning the tips on entrepreneurship, and they're actually basically going to be their own entrepreneurs. And that's where the business is right now. So now we just teach other personal trainers and entrepreneurs and basically mold them into the making of an awesome entrepreneur. And that's, again, the title of the show, The Making of an Entrepreneur. And so that's really the story about kind of where we are, where our company is going, and now our mission is just to have 100 entrepreneurs on our team, 100 personal trainers and entrepreneurs on our team by this time next year. Okay, so in 1 year, we're looking to have 100 personal trainers and entrepreneurs on our team. And notice that my goal is pretty specific now. And now what I do with that goal, and here's another tip, is if you always got to set a goal, and I like setting goals that are pretty big and ambitious, but then you got to reverse engineer back and say, what's the quickest way I can get to my goal? So for me, I know exactly we need 6.5 trainers per week to get to that goal by this time next year. And so now what are all the steps I'm going to do to implement that to get there? So if you have a goal, then just reverse engineer it back and figure out what exactly, how am I going to make this happen? What systems am I going to put into place? Remember, don't go down that rabbit trail. What systems are you going to put in place to get there quickly? And that's where we are in our business. So that's it for this episode. I know it went a little long, but I thought I'd share some entrepreneurial tips with you, and hopefully you found this valuable. Again, I'm Mike Tangreda. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Hey, Mike Tangreda here once again. Thanks again for listening. And I'm actually in my car right now and thought I'd do a quick podcast here on the benefits of marketing. And the reason I actually got the motivation and the drive to do this podcast is I actually just got off the phone with a friend of mine and one of our trainers. And like most people that I've encountered, including myself, this trainer has a couple of different business ideas that have been sort of on the back burner and have been, on his mind while he's still doing his personal training business. And what I realized with just quickly after our phone call is, he's had these on the back burner, and the reason, a lot of these things haven't come to fruition or, maybe brought to life or had the success that he wanted, and they're great ideas, by the way. And it really comes down to marketing. And that is something that if you can learn the fundamentals of marketing, you can have an amazing business no matter what venture you're in. Some of the best marketers I know are in, like I have a client who's in the real estate business. He does amazingly well. But when I drive around town, he's the only sign I see. I see them everywhere. He markets the crap out of his business. And so going back to this trainer, he's had these ideas on the back burner, and perhaps it comes with maybe a little lack of confidence of marketing. I'm going to share a little bit more about marketing, or just getting off and doing something and getting off your butt and actually getting your first ad out there. But it's a little more complex than that, because marketing, you can spend a lot of money and get burnt very quickly. And I think that's a fear that a lot of us entrepreneurs or maybe trainers or anyone listening to this may have that same idea. It's like, geez, I put $500 into Facebook ads and I get zero results. It's like, how much more can I bleed money? So with marketing, it really is something that is super, super simple. And it comes down to this. It is knowing your cost per acquisition. So if I spend $500 on, let's say, Facebook ads, at the end of the week or at the end of the day, whatever my budget is, or at the end of the hour, it doesn't really matter, how much did it cost me to acquire one customer? Right? And it's as simple as that. So you need to know your cost per acquisition. And that is the number one thing to marketing. And what a lot of people think is like, if you spend $500 and you only get $500 back, that is amazing. You should be jumping for joy. I jump for joy if I put $500 and get $500 back. That's a break even. That means I've acquired one customer for free. You see the power in that? If you acquire one customer for free, so now if I put $1,000 and I get two customers, but I've also got $1,000 back, so it hasn't cost me anything. Now I have two customers for free. And so literally I can spend infinite amounts of money to acquire these customers because I know it's a free and my cost per acquisition is a break even. So if you can get your cost per acquisition to break even, you should be jumping for joy because you've literally just gained free customers. And in business, think about how powerful each customer is, right? A list is where all the power is in business. And I heard this from Russell Brunson, who's one of the best online marketers. And he basically says that if you don't have a list, you don't have a business. And think about how true that is. So look at the power of Facebook. Okay, Facebook has one of the largest lists. I don't know if it's the largest, but it's got to be up there, right? Billions and billions of customers. And at the time, Instagram was a starting company. It wasn't even owned by Facebook at the time. And now Facebook has billions of dollars, and Zuckerberg could have easily created Instagram probably within an hour. But why didn't he do that? It's because the power is not in the technology. The power is not in that. The power is in the customer list. So what they did is they acquired Instagram for whatever the insane amount of money was because Instagram had the user list. And now, Facebook has turned Instagram into what's probably powerful than actual Facebook right now. But it doesn't matter. They own both because they own the list of customers. Google did the exact same thing with Nest. Nest, who does all the thermostats and doorbells and all that, they acquired Nest. Google could have built the Nest technology probably within a day, but they wanted the list. And the list is where the power is. So with my business and with your business, always look at your customer list. Is that list moving up? That should really be your main focus. Because at the end of the day, the power is in your list. And with that list, so, I was talking about, the $1,000 in or $1,000 out, like to acquire a free customer. In turn, you can market to that list and promote other services. So a lot of what we've been doing lately is we've been driving a lot of clients into funnels, and it's super, super exciting. We have, nutrition funnels and videos, but it's not costing me any money. At least, to produce the content and all that, it's costing me money, right? To do the videos and my time. But I'm getting that cost per acquisition down to zero. That's my goal. It'd be great to make money off them, but I know the money's going to come on the back end when we start marketing to that list and start promoting them, either training services or nutrition products or whatever other products. So if you don't have a list, make sure that you work on acquiring a list, whatever ways you can. And you can do joint ventures with other smaller companies if you're just starting out, and promote your products to theirs and theirs to yours. If anyone sort of comes to you and is looking for a business adventure, I get solicited quite often now just because of our website and domain authority. I always reply back with, hey, do you have a list, and how can we cross promote to each other so I can get more of their users for free onto my list. Okay, so marketing, I started this episode with marketing, but it really turned into an episode about building a list. But if you're not focusing on those two things, then you're not really focusing on growing your business. So hopefully you found that valuable. Make sure that if you need help getting your cost per acquisition down, or you need help with Facebook ads or anything like that, feel free to reach out. We're doing a lot of work with that stuff right now and trying to bring our cost per acquisition down, really, really down. and eventually that we make money off some of our funnels that we're running. So again, just a short, quick episode. Thought I'd share that with you. Hopefully that you found this valuable. And as always, make sure to subscribe on iTunes or wherever you're listening to this podcast. And thanks for listening.